Hello there and welcome to VGC. My name is Andy Robinson and this is my first look at Far Cry 6 by Ubisoft. Last year, Ubisoft offered the first glimpse at Far Cry 6 and promised its biggest, most ambitious instalment yet, with a more cinematic narrative led by Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito. Far Cry's games have always been about stunning exotic locations under tyrannic rule. In this case, the fictional Caribbean island of Yara and Esposito's Anton Castillo. But only now do we know what that means in gameplay terms. An entire country to explore, bonkers weapons such as CDR launcher, a crocodile for a companion, and for the first time in the series, the ability to put away your gun and mix with the natives. With the two opposing forces of Far Cry's stellar sales and Ubisoft's mission to make its open world games a bit more unique, we did wonder how brave it would be with the series' next instalment. And while our first look at real gameplay suggests evolution more than revolution, the features it has introduced sound like meaningful steps forward for the series. Lead gameplay designer David Grivell told VGC, "This time around for me it was more a question of how we embrace the legacy that we have and still make this feel like an evolution. The approach we settled on is what we call Resolver, which is that do-it-yourself philosophy, and it really helped us create a few new features and systems based on this." Like much of Far Cry 6, the Resolver spirit, which literally means to resolve, is inspired by the island of Cuba and its knack of using whatever little resources it has to solve a problem. In Far Cry 6, it translates to the bonkers arsenal of weapons, which are cobbled together with household electronics like a nail gun or a CD launcher. The new Supremo Backpacks, which offer carryable rocket launchers or flamethrowers, as well as the new Guerrilla Rides, which allow players to customise their own vehicle and have it summon them around the island. And what a look at the island is. Yara is the biggest environment in Far Cry history, encompassing an entire country's worth of biomes into a single sandbox. There's a large urban city called Esperanza, lush jungles and shorelines, docks, guerrilla camps, oil rigs and villages. Purely from a variety and visual standpoint, it looks like Yara is going to be a joy to explore. And thankfully, developer Ubisoft Toronto appears to have invested in adding an equal amount of variety to the gameplay too. Players can participate in activities such as fishing, dominoes or hunting, while its staple outposts have been expanded into free varieties, bases, checkpoints and flat cans. Greville told VGC that Far Cry 6's commitment to diversity extends to the bases themselves. "We implemented them in such a way that there is a meaning to the infrastructure. It's not like, there are 10 camps in the forest and they all look the same," he said. He added, "Some might be about a sawmill, some might be about a port, and it's not just the theme on top of it, it also affects how players approach the gameplay. So if there's outposts inside a building, snipers may have to adapt to their situation." This brings us to arguably the most compelling, if a little dull on paper, addition. The ability to put your gun away and walk among the people. The designer told us, "It's one of the things I really pushed for. Because in previous Far Cry games, you were always the centre of attention, like enemies knew where you were, and almost all the time. So it was difficult for us to blend in, and for us, because we were building a game about modern guerrillas, it was important to be able to pass as a civilian."
Good horse.
The ability to holster your weapon adds two things to Far Cry that weren't possible before. One, you can explore the world, go fishing and gawp at the gorgeous vistas, without any kind of combat interrupting you. An appealing prospect given that Yara looks set to be a stunning place to traverse. Secondly, the player, and not the game, decides when the combat encounters start, allowing you to ambush and be a true guerrilla. Greville told us, "For example, if I was driving a car, I could holster my gun, drive up to a military truck and wait until I was right next to it, before pulling out my gun, shooting the driver and hijacking the truck, all in one go. That kind of thing was not an option previously, and I think it sounds like a small detail, just holstering a gun, but it really opens a new dimension of interaction to Far Cry."